But let's pay attention to what capitalism does. Capitalism needs the world to believe that these things are that smart because they want people to put enough money into them for them to build them to be that smart. It's just the same thing they do with video games where they sell you this game with this lovely world. And they give it to you kind of have a crackpot of what they told you it was going to be. And then once everybody pays for the game and everybody subscribe and they buy their outfits and they sell everything, they come back in a couple months and they give you the full game once they've had time to buy the things they know they needed to buy before they can make the actual thing. This is what we're seeing with AI on a large scale. They're using people's inability to understand what actually artificial intelligence would look like and how it would work to market them something that seems smart enough to fool the average person well enough for them to put their money into it. I don't believe AI is nowhere near as smart as it.
And we're back.
Back again, brother. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great, man. Good to see you. Looking forward to the chat.
Definitely. We going a little bit off the cuff today, but I think we have a good topic, man. I've been seeing a lot where it comes to the idea of like belief in your own ideas and the trend to copy people that are successful to get to a certain point before you can even believe or fund your own thing. So like this kind of mindset of not fully leaning into your own creative capacity because you have to have a certain amount of leverage or this or that before you can get to moving. And there's a logic to it, but I believe that with the way that things are going with AI and certain technologies, people are missing the opportunities to really just take that time and build out their ideas step by step.
And why do you think it is that people are essentially holding themselves back?
Because it's being marketed that it's easier to take someone else's ideas and push it to the point to where you can execute at the level that you want to execute at, instead of being realistic about the groundwork that you might need to do in order to understand the thing that you really want to do well enough. So what it is I think we've created a habit of trying to capitalistically, if that's a word, like use capitalism to shortcut the hard work that it takes to really understand a industry and the things that it takes to be a part of it at a certain level.
So it sounds like you're referring to multiple things. One is kind of a level of laziness, it sounds like.
Definitely.
And then is the other or another part the fear of self-expression?
Yeah, so it's a double-sided thing. And I think that's why I don't know where exactly to place it because it's just seems to be a trend where people don't really seem to. It's either they don't believe in themselves or they see that the work that they have to do it a certain way isn't appealing to what they want to do. Like I don't feel like people really willing to. There's a lot of talk about being an entrepreneur and being successful in this space, but the actual level of knowledge and effort and information that a person has to interact with to really do that is usually skipped by the social media flair of people doing it.
I think there's a term for that. Survivor's bias, where basically when you go into a market and see all of the successful people, they are there because they have succeeded. That's kind of a contradictory way to put it, but essentially you don't see all the failures and you don't see all of the hard work that it took if you're just looking at it from a surface level.
Definitely. And I mean, I guess my thing for it is just really trying to understand so for me, I consider myself a scholar in a sense. Like I really do believe in fully comprehending things at a level of depth. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like because of AI, because of social media, you're starting to see that people are a lot more comfortable with the breadcrumbs of the idea instead of really grasping it, I guess. It's something I'm beginning to see more of. And I'm beginning to see how AI can affect people's confidence in what they believe they know.
You said that you're seeing how AI can affect people's confidence in what they believe they know, in the sense that it gives them unearned confidence.
Not really unearned confidence, but it doesn't really. They feel as though there's a depth of knowledge I've been seeing lately. Like, so, for instance, there's a point in time where you had to, like, the idea of someone that is actually someone that has a degree compared to someone that just read all the stuff and kind of kind of knows it. So that surface level compared to that depth of knowledge is almost what I've seen a lot of, understanding how to encourage people to be confident in themselves for what they find out, and then figuring out how to best structure it in a way to where it's still valuable outside of just their own idea. I don't know if I'm dancing around the topic here at this point.
But I think this is good. Because you're saying things that are resonating with me, and I'm trying to frame them in my mind before giving them back. But part of what I heard you say, you mentioned this distinction in some sense between an expert and an amateur in some sense.
Mm,
And part of what I've been seeing is how AI is blurring those lines, because someone who has a degree, in some sense, yes, they are assumed to have a deep level of knowledge, but the degree also represents a lot more that human beings just give credibility to, right? It's like you got accepted into a university, you passed multiple classes, you were able to navigate those social environments, you were able to pass multiple tests, you had the discipline to uh, continue through the entire process, and all of that gets wrapped up into a certification. Sometimes what we do is we collapse or forget about all of those other social functionings that are essentially shortcutted to when we say someone has a degree or someone has a certification, and we just think, well, it's a set of facts that you have to memorize. It's just a set of knowledge. And now that AI can give you the set of knowledge, someone who was initially a layperson can then become an expert. And this in the sense I'm using it, it's a little bit different from the creative realm, but I do think there's a little bit of overlap there.
yeah, and I mean more so in the sense of understanding the process of information. Like, for instance, if you go through AI and it can explain to you the study, you still don't understand what it's like to actually conduct this study and what that information means and how to interact with it in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I I understand completely, and then I want to tie this back to creativity if we get a chance to. But so I'm trying to write this paper where I am attempting to combine two psychological theories of entropy that use different terminologies. They have different historical and philosophical underpinnings, roughly. Trying to put them together and then show theoretically how they explain how we make meaning in the world. So that's a lot, right? Like it's very abstract, it's very theoretical. And
Mm.
I'm using Grok to edit my rough drafts and my paragraphs, and I'm in, I'm finding myself wrestling with how much to lean on Grok and how much to lean on myself, because he'll give. It's so weird for me to anthropomorphize. Grok is telling me this. He made me feel this way or something. It's weird, but he'll give me, for example, and a critique where he says, "Hey, you use this term. It's actually this other term," and something in me feels very confident, and I'm like, no, you're actually wrong. Even though Grok is this super powered, hyper intelligent system, something in me is just like, that's not correct. And then I have to go back to the source articles and highlight all of the different ways in which my way of using the term is correct, feed it back into Grok, and to say, are you still saying I'm wrong? And then it'll correct itself, which is weird, because then I have to question everything else that I've been using Grok for then, because now I'm like, and so trying to fit AI into my thinking process essentially is something that I don't have fully fleshed out, but it's still better than, in my opinion, if I were working with a full-time faculty professor who has a super busy schedule, maybe gets back to me once every 2 weeks, doesn't know all of the things that Grok knows, can't quickly pull up all the references that need to be pulled up. And so yeah, there's a difference, I guess, where Grok has a lot of knowledge, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it can put it all together optimally just yet.
I think that what you're talking about in that experience is exactly what I'm pointing at. It's like being a lot of people aren't willing to take that extra step of being like, no, this is what I think. This is why I think that. Are you sure that I'm wrong? Most people will just take that, oh, okay, it's telling me I should use that word, so I'm going to use that word. And then not only does that discredit their input in the situation, and it makes it less genuine, but it also removes their understanding of what they're even explaining in the paper. So you begin to have people come to you to talk about these topics, and you don't understand the verbiage that you're using because you were just given that verbiage to explain it with AI and didn't really take the time to understand what you're saying and what it means in those spaces.
There's actually this neuroscientific paper by Carl Friston and colleagues. I think it came out pretty recently, 2024, 2025, talking about the different kinds of meaning making and intelligence that humans have compared to the large language models, where you and I can share knowledge, but we have a shared grounding of the experiential world, of the physical world, of the world of action. And regardless, in some sense, of what you and I think, we will both test it against that shared world. And that's really what meaning is. Meaning is found in the application of knowledge in the world. But with AI and the LLMs, they don't yet have an embodied connection to the world. They have us. We feed it inputs and then it produces outputs, but then we are the judges of those outputs. So it's difficult to exactly frame what these tools are and what's the best way to use them. And because it's difficult to frame them, you can lead to a lot of errors where you think that it actually is a substitute expert or a substitute human being, and it's like, nah, man, you
Should be for what they're marketing and for the prices they're selling it at. But it can do the task that they're saying it can do if you understand how to work it well enough. Because it isn't stupid. It's just not autonomous. It's not intelligent. Like, to me, intelligence means to be able to, like, actually, it can think technically, you know what I'm saying? But it's not like conscious. Like you said, it doesn't have a medium to transmute reality to, or a basis really outside of data. You know what I'm saying? And the data is all that it has, and only can interact with the data in certain ways. So it's limited in capacity at this point. And so
Mhm.
what we're really talking about at this point is understanding the value. This is the conversation where we talk about the value of human consciousness to me. Like, what is it the really thing? What is the thing that makes all of this tick for us? What is it that makes us special when it comes to intelligence and how we think and how we process the reality and how we do things? And how can we properly position AI technology to be a tool and not a crutch for us as we continue to grow?
Mhm.
And it's
And
all about using it and understanding how to position it. Like you said, like, there's certain ways to work with certain systems. And even with that, like, I haven't never used Grok, but I know for me, as far as memory goes, as far as overall conversations and understanding context, Claude is the only system I've seen that's been consistent. Claude and Gemini have the best memory for a public use agent that's just easy access, where you can kind of go through an idea and build a project and it can actually keep up with what you're doing and the basis of it and understanding it. But a lot of systems don't do a great job with that. Like, once the chat gets too long, the context has to reset. You kind of have to start all the way over and build the idea out again for it to really understand what's.
mhm. And then going back to the creative domain, I wonder if there have been tests done to have AI produce creative pieces like music or imagery, and then to see on average if humans can tell the difference between something that's human made and something that's non-human made.
There have been a couple studies. I haven't looked at all the numbers on it, but for the most part, the average person can't tell the difference. But there's just a scale of it too, of like people that know art, people that know image generation, certain things, colors, how a computer. For me, I can almost tell most of the stuff that's AI just based off of how it does lighting. They don't really do a good job with like realistic lighting or positioning, things like that. But you have to kind of pay attention enough to notice it. But there are research on it. I haven't looked at the numbers.
Hmm. Because I wonder, what does that what will that do to the different industries? Like when it comes to creative production, what are the tasks that AI could take over, and what are the tasks that it couldn't take over? And going back to what you were talking about initially, I wonder if it would be, because earlier you were talking about how some people don't understand that there are steps and necessary stages to pass through when you are trying to create something that's real and genuine. And a misunderstanding of what AI is for can just further that lack, essentially, can further that misunderstanding.
Well, I think what I've noticed is that AI is exposing where people lack confidence and self-confidence. The things that they're willing to give over to AI because they don't want to be responsible for it being wrong if they made the decision. And I
That's
think
real.
that's the
Yeah, yeah,
biggest
yeah.
thing is like, so for me, like for instance, I have my whole company's thing is monetizing people's creativity through AI tech solutions. But my solutions aren't let the AI create the art. My solutions are let the AI run the business part that you're not good at so that you can create the art, but you still have to maintain that system. It's never going to be something that you're not overlooking. It's just letting AI be at the position to do the busy work so that you can focus on the key points and just structure your business around being creative. So it's less about letting the AI make the art and more about letting the AI do the business part so the artist can be an
Kind of a tangent, maybe, but if you happen to listen to Future's new album.
I listened to it this morning on my way to take my lady to work, and I just realized that I'm either old or I don't really enjoy music the way I used to, bro. I don't know, like I really just feel like that now, dog. I was telling my shorty that I'm like, it ain't even nothing wrong. It's not even that there's nothing wrong with the music, 'cause I dance, so it's like it's one of the things like I do know that I'll sit down and put on some headphones and really tap in with him. Oh, okay, I see what's going on, but as a creative and as I get more into brand building and presentation, I'm like, the rollout for this Future album was actually decent, but the album doesn't sound like what I expect from a nigga that just cut his hair off, that we ain't heard from in all this time. Like, bro, like I really wanted it to come off a little more organized, I guess is what I was looking for. The album kind of felt like it was just tracks. Like it didn't seem like it had no real structure to it, for real, for real. Maybe I was just tweaking, but I got to sit and re-listen to it. That's just my first listen.
Yeah, I think I got through the first 6 or 7 songs, and so in 2016, man, in
Yeah,
2016, man,
it was just it was
a
going
great
on.
year, bro.
It was an event.
Bro, it was amazing. And so there's so many future hits from that year, and I think the next 2 years, really, that I was like, dang, this is great. And so it's so interesting to figure out what is the quality of music. What is the goodness of music? Is it in the music itself? Is it in the artist? Is it in the perceiver? And my experience with what I've listened to so far is it's very similar to yours. In our last episode, we spoke about latent inhibition, where you basically you learn to ignore a lot of things in your world. And you mentioned, you're like, I don't know if I'm just getting old. That seems to be what happens as you get older. As you get older, things become more mundane, and you don't pay attention to the novelty and magic of the world anymore because you've seen it already. And so you pay attention to the things that you need to pay attention to, and you start to ignore most everything. And as a side note, from some people's perspective, that's why it's important to have kids, because kids remind you of just how amazing the world is. And it's like, oh yeah, no, that is actually really cool. Like my brother, he has 3 kids now, and he's showing them his animes and his Toonami shows that we grew up on, and they're like loving it. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right, Dragon Ball Z was amazing. Anyway, I really struggled to like parse out the differences between the songs, and I could kind of see what they're doing, but I found myself kind of drifting. And then bad bitches, narcos, dracos, I was like, okay, I get it, I'm here for it. But I,
All right,
man.
man, you
And
grown,
okay, last
bro. We
thing,
grown, bro.
I
Grown
but
as
I don't even
fuck.
know, bro. Man, what's crazy
uh,
though? is that I'm watching this anime with my wife on Netflix called Ramparts of Ice. It's a great slice of life anime. And the ending, bro, the ending credits, that music has me it has me vibing every single time, bro. So it's like I know I could still find music out here that really hits me, that really is like every time I'm like craving for it, I'm fiending it. And again, I don't know if it's just me or if it's like, nah, like Future maybe felt that he needed to, in my opinion, it sounds very similar to what traditional Future is. And it sounded like, what if Future felt like, yeah, the industry, the world wants more of the same.
Yeah,
And
and I think that's the biggest
we'll see how it
conversation
does,
I
I
have with
guess.
people. Yeah, that's the biggest conversation I've been having with people because it's like, so I'm gonna put it to you this way. There's like I call it there's a box of artists where it's like they get into a sound that does so well for them that they don't continue to grow. Like, for instance, like I feel like Chris Brown, Future, shit, Schoolie it's a lot of artists that's like, even T.I., Lil Wayne, it's like they just got into this bag where it was like, that's where their creativity, that's where it was best at. And they don't really want to like, either they don't want to progress it because they're scared that people won't like it, or they don't know how to progress it because that's just who they are and they've shown their best version of themselves, and that's fine. But after a while, it just gets repetitive to everybody else because we've seen it before. Like you said, there's a nuance. It becomes nuance to us. Like, I fuck with Future music. When I sit down and listen to them, and it'll be a time where I'm in the club and I hear a song now, and they're like, "Oh, this is nice." You know what I'm saying? Like even with the baby, when he came out, everybody was like, "Oh, everything sounds the same." And then as it kept going, it was like, "All right, now you need to do something different, or we not gonna care no more." You even see that with like J. Cole. J. Cole called it. He's like, "Bro, I gotta kill off this version of myself." Like he's talked about it in his last couple interviews. Like J. Cole is dead. I'm not making any more music in that lane anymore because it's just no point. Even when you look at artists like Tyler the Creator and how they switch up their sound so often, like it's a part of creativity that requires you to be able to break off that old ego and build a new one in order for you to continue to be fluent in that space.
I love Tyler the Creator. And
And I think
no, go ahead.
I would say one more thing. And I think what's disappointing about what I see with Future's rollout is with the haircut, with how he's been moving over the last couple of years, I was expecting the music to sound different too, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It just still sounds the same, bro.
I had a similar, I don't know if you listen to too much rock, but there's a band I love. Their name is Dance Gavin Dance, and they also had a album drop this year. And now they've switched singers, and so there's some drama going on. But same thing. I had the same feeling. I was like, man, this band, I've been following them for maybe going on 20 years now, and I still find myself going back to the first songs that I heard by them and still loving them. And so it's an interesting mix, right? Creativity, it's an interesting mix, again, as always, balance between chaos and order, man. It's an interesting uh tension that has to be maintained there, because, and there's also a personal element where people vary, I'm sure. I personally have the same really 20 songs that I listen to whenever I'm driving in my usual commute. And then sometimes I try to branch out, and every now and then I'll find something that I'll add to the rotation. But it's like, it's as if there was this foundational period of my life where songs really stuck with me. And maybe I compare newer songs to those songs in some sense. But another example, though, I've been recently listening to Michael Jackson. What is that album called? Escape. It came out a
Yeah,
while ago, but apparently it came back up in social media and whatnot, and so I've been loving
probably
that.
because
I
of the
feel like
movie.
Michael Jackson. Oh, right, that makes sense. Um, he might be an example of someone who's just purely timeless. You know,
Yeah,
could do anything. It'll be a hit.
I mean, I think that goes back to what we talk about when we talk about truth. Like the more truth you put in the thing, the longer it lasts. And a lot of music is built off of trend, so it doesn't really last outside of that trend space of people that aren't tuned to that frequency. And I think that's really what it is like, even when we look at artists like Future, it's like, all right, so like you talking about the content of the music, like I like the beat, I like the song, but it's like I'm sitting here listening, I'm like, bro, like what are we talking about, brother, brother? You have been rich for the last 20 years. I'm just not really falling for it anymore. It's hard for me to talk about you riding with a Draco and where are you at? Why do you need to do that, brother? Like, it's just hard for me. I'm just not in that space. You feel me? Like, it's not cool to me. And I think that's what it was when I got to a certain, I wouldn't even say a certain age, when I got to a certain mindset, certain things just weren't cool to me no more. So it's not really the flex to do certain things. And I'm very biased about that because I listen to, it's a lot of artists I like that talk that, but it's more so, I guess I feel like I want to see growth, and if I don't see a certain amount of growth, I get uninterested. Because, like how you said, I'm very different with how I would consume music. I would turn on Spotify and put on that AI DJ or put on some random playlist and just let it play. And if I have anything that I like, I hit like, and then I have like a list of like songs. If I just feel like I'm tired or something, I put on that list of like songs, which is just a combination of all the songs that I've liked listening to random music over time. And that's just kind of my vibe. I consume music in that way. So I'm not, as a dancer, I'm not like I only know just these songs. Like I need to know how to dance at different tempos. So I kind of just float through music. So for me, it's just kind of like there has to be some value there because I listen to so much different music and so many different artists. It's like it's almost a waste of time for me to put something in rotation that's not contributing to the frequency and the mindset that I'm trying to program myself to be in.
That was a pet peeve of mine when I first joined the fraternity, when bros were like, we can only hop to certain songs, or we could only do these specific hops to these specific songs. And I was just like, I thought this was supposed to be a creative, like, I thought that's what the true skill in it was, right? And being able to essentially perform to anything, kind of create a masterpiece out of supposedly random elements. And so you just reminded me of that with the somewhat the note on constriction.
That's why we got along, bro, because we was willing to be more creative with the hops, bro. Like, that's just all just different people, bro. You realize that I think that's more so of a person to person thing, because like when you get around certain bros that really hop, bro, like no, like bros will hop to anything. Bros that hop for real can hop to anything. They can slow it down, they can speed it up, they'll add in, they'll freak it a little bit. Like, no, it's that. And that's just the different levels of creativity. Some people don't allow themselves to even be in those spaces. And it's interesting because you see it on different levels. Like, I think the frat is interesting. Even just like in the dance community, there are certain dancers that are like, I only dance to the style of music that comes with my style. And then there are certain dancers in that same style that will dance to anything and still maintain their structure and style. So it's just about the human ability or confidence. I bring it down to confidence, bro. It's really just about, do you feel like you confident enough to break outside of what you know? Or do you only want to do what you know because you worried about looking stupid? Like, I don't care about looking stupid. I'll look stupid to learn. Some people don't have that mindset.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's tough, man. It's tough to make it, so to speak. You and I are somewhat engaged in similar creative endeavors to the degree that we are creating content and putting it out there. And I'm sure I'll speak for myself, but I feel like it would be pretty similar, where if the goal was purely clicks, then that would push us to make certain content. That would push me to say certain things and do certain things. But I'm trying at least to maintain the goal of just trying to put truth out there in various forms.
Agreed.
And let's say, like, practically speaking, I can imagine for an artist, right? It's like you still got to eat. You
Yeah,
guys
you
still got
got
to have
to.
your full day job. You got to you have to establish your craft, your profession, or whatnot, so that way you can live. And then you're also trying to foster this creative element, because maybe this goes back to your capitalism discussion, but I think it's broader than capitalism. I think it's just the way social structures are, to the degree that they are hierarchical. there's necessarily going to be a normal way of succeeding in society. And then there are fringe ways of succeeding, and creativity literally is on the fringes. That, like, real creative people are on the fringes. That's where that occurs, just by definition, right? Because if you're doing something that everyone else is doing, it's not creative. And so it is such a double-edged sword, because you have to, like I said, you have to master normal ways of succeeding in the hierarchy, and then also try to dip your toes out into doing something that's a little different. And I think it's the rare person that can only pursue their creative outlet and be successful enough to survive.
But I think the survival while having to be creative is the creativity itself. Like, that's the thing that makes it worth it. Like, you being able to work a full-time job and still get off and do the art thing at a high level is what makes you creative, because the art part isn't hard for you. The money part is. For most creatives, the issue isn't being creative. The issue is having the money to eat and do the creative thing. You need tools. You need a place to do it. You need a way to put it out for people to even care. It costs money for distribution depending on what you're doing. So it's like the key here is understanding that you need a skill and art. Like, for me, my solution, like I said, I can't tell you what everybody else is doing, but as a creative, for me, my thing is realizing, okay, I need something to make enough money to put into a structure that can make creativity be a revenue thing for me. Everything that people do that's creative isn't going to make money, though, and you can be okay with that. But there's still ways to even take something that doesn't make a lot of money and do it long enough, well enough to be rich at it. Because people have gotten rich doing everything. There's nothing you can't get rich at. Either you are good at it or you aren't. If you're good enough at it, people will pay you to do it, because they just like people that are good at do whatever the thing is. Like, if you get good enough at something, you will get paid for it. And then the harder part is getting known for it. So I think with creativity, sometimes we lack the patience with our creative art. And I'll put it, this is how I framed it for myself. I realized I didn't want to make dance something I needed to live off of, because it spoils the creative part of it. I needed to have something that made me enough money so that when I dance, I could just dance. Like, I needed to be in that space. I needed to be enveloped in that. You feel what I'm saying? So for me, it's more about creating space. And then the problem with most people is they want this space to be all day. It ain't gonna be all day. You ain't if you don't have no money, like, you gotta go do something. Like, or you don't. You can be homeless and just be creative in a space and get popular for being creative in that space. You could pick a block in the world and do that thing every day and just figure out a way to have enough. If you know how to forage, go get somebody that's gonna look out for you, whatever it may be, you can do that. But are you really willing to do that? And how long are you willing to do that? How long can you sustain that? And being realistic about that. That's something that creatives have to actively do in life. And I feel like that's something that they avoid a lot of the times, because it's like they feel like they have to give up on their art. And it's like, no, you have to pace your art. Put it in enough, do something every day. If you do something every day that's contributing to your art and you still make enough to make a living, eventually you can pick up on the amount of time you spend on the art and take away from the things that you use to make money as you make the art better and the system around the art better. That's my whole thing with the Players Collective. It's like, let's build the infrastructure so that you can make money doing the hobby thing and use the money that you have, that you are making, to funnel it into that and then make it a cycle. Eventually, the art becomes the load bearing wheel, and you're able to be creative within this infrastructure that is backed by whatever technology or just good ideas or good business, to make sure that you can be creative and continue to do what you want to do in life and make a living for yourself. That's something I aspire to structure that for people. That's like, I'm passionate about that. That's something I do it day to day. Even for myself, like, I'm slowly making more money with my business to the point where eventually I will have to work less. That's the goal. I'm actively doing that and creating that process for people.
In some sense, the question comes up of what's the purpose of creativity? You know,
To
I
expand the
think
world.
that to expand the world. What do you mean by that?
If we weren't creative, we'd be stagnant.
So in some sense, creativity and creative people are the means of
Survival.
what? Connecting the current society to the changing reality.
So
It's like
let's
a
put it this
bridge
way.
in some sense.
Let's put it this way. We live in a world that doesn't have finite resources, but they have limited resources. So the same principle that we had as a hunter-gathering society of having to move to different areas as resources depleted is the same thing that we're doing to society as we create and go through different cycles of how we organize and do things. As we have more people, we need to be more creative about how we allocate resources and what resources that we consider valuable. And so what we're looking at here is that the creative people are the ones that come up with the means for society to grow. Because without those creative people, the same old systems would eventually degrade and break down, which is what we see in every society over time.
And then as a subset of that kind of practical and functional creativity, where do you think creative art falls? Like what do you think the purpose of creating art is?
Creative art is the fiber of these ideas growing, if that makes sense. Like the expression of it, if that makes sense. Like mm, when you observe the Renaissance era, this is where that becomes clear. Because a lot of the great thinkers of that time were also great artists. Those things balance out. The ideas, for instance, a lot of people that are creative usually have a lot of people that are rich or successful have a creative friend. They're the idea guy, they're the design guy, they're the engineer of sorts. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it's a business engineer, structural engineer, design, because the thing that gets people there isn't the thing that get people into businesses isn't always the business itself. It's more so either the ease of the structure this business creates, which is a creative act, or the imagery based around this business that people like enough to interact with it, which is a creative act, if that makes sense. Like, and I think we're so like realizing that like so creative art in that space is like every business has a logo. Every business has a website, a look, a structure that people like the feel of. That is created there. You know what I'm saying?
Question of the creative arts, you started off with saying it's the fiber of those ideas, and then you started discussing the Renaissance and how businesses have an image and a logo. Is it in some sense it's an expression of that process of survival that we were speaking of when we were talking about uh, the more functional or practical aspect of creativity? It's like it's a the art, the dance, the music, the imagery. It's a it's a what? It's an unconscious, it's an implicit description of n- generating new ideas that are functional and good. Like it's a description of survival in some sense.
It displays the potential for human complex thinking in a way that us we can see. So, like for instance, you see what I'm saying? Like it shows us exactly what complex thinking looks like. Because in order for the human mind to be able to create certain kinds of art, it has to be able to compile a certain amount of data in a certain way. It's just a part of it. Even with dance, in order for you to move your body in a certain way, you have to be present to a certain amount of principles at a given time. So it's about the complexity of thought and how that complexity of thought proliferates in other spaces. So art is just the expression of this level of complexity. Business, I believe, is I believe a business is a creative act. Like structuring a business and having a like not just going to have an idea, hey, I want to sell this thing, but no, like the actual idea of creating a business plan. I want to do it this way. This is our model. This is how we do business. This is how we structure things. This is how I want people's customer experience to go. This is how I want you to greet them. People that come to that kind of detail, that's a creative act because you're now generating an experience in a world that you want people to be invited into.
Hmm. Creation as the generation of experience. Man,
It's a
that's
directed
good.
experience. Like you can create, people can create. And even when you think about like movies are just like movies, theater, all of this is this idea of being able to tell a story that that changes how people perceive humanity. And it almost like it's like steering the herd. You know what I'm saying?
I've heard it I've heard it say that a true artist, like a painter, teaches you how to see,
For
or
sure.
reminds you of the world in its latent potential that's there, that you've forgotten as you've gotten older. I like that. I like that. Artists, creative people try to give you access to the source of experience, the more real reality that's always underlying our knowledge structures. And so maybe tying this back to Future, it's as if Future didn't, again, this is just our experience, it seems, but it feels like Future's album didn't remind us enough.
It didn't. It didn't
It
bring me
didn't
back to that time.
it didn't pierce the veil enough for us.
But I'm gonna tell you what's crazy now. This is why I say I experience music differently now. Because what will hit for me about this Future album, for me personally, is when the dance community starts dancing to it and they act out certain bars. I'm like, damn. Now I remember that bar because Buddy did that five shit to it. And that's how art to me it works in that matter as well. Because that's what we look at nowadays. Most people look at the TikTok dances. That's why we remember songs now. We don't remember songs because of us hearing the lyric. We remember songs because of that video that the song was used or that meme that the song is attached to. We digest it differently now. We look at information differently now. And the way that we're remembering and categorizing things has changed because of social media. And that's something that I'm more so trying to point at is like, how is Instagram, AI, and TikTok, how is it affecting how we interact with information and data? You see what I'm saying? Like it's changing how we think, and we're not noticing it as much now. But I can see the studies a mile from now. Like it's coming. How we're approaching things differently.
Right. And then there's also the other side of it. How are these technologies impacting the information? Like, could
Mm-hmm.
you could you imagine if in Future's consultation room they're talking about, okay, well, people really like TikTok, and so we need to make these songs more amenable to that platform compared to, in the
Who are they
past. And I
marketing to?
wonder, right, right, exactly. And oh man, who knows? But also to your point, the thing that's cool about art is that it's the thing that's cool about a great movie, a great story, a great book is that you can continuously pull and extract knowledge from it. And like you mentioned with the album, it's like maybe I got to give it a few more listens, right? And maybe I'll hear it in a club, or hear it in an experience where it's kind of a perfect match that ingrains or reveals more of the music to me compared to me just sitting in the car, kind of waiting for something to happen. And so there's layers to it, man. I like it, and I think that one thing that is sure, in my opinion, is we need art. We need it, man. We need
Yeah,
creative
and I
people. We need to be reminded how to see.
I think that's what we're looking for now is that we're in a space now where the world seems a bit mundane. I'll speak for myself. Things seem mundane. Everything is a remix. Every movie is a live action or animation of something that we already had, or a different perspective of some other character, or you know what I'm saying? And so it's getting to this point now where it's like, I'm really fiending for that thing that's like, that's fucking cool. Like I got on, side note, a complete tangent here. I got on Power World and I was like, this is fucking cool. So there's like there are things there, and I think that we're just at this space where during those times when those like those early 2016 early 2013s, bro, music was everything. Music videos, music performances, BET award, it was all centered around the music. And now there's so many different forms of entertainment that are making money, that are beneficial. It's like you don't really need the music to be the center of it all anymore. Like it's there, but it doesn't hold the space that it used to in our importance or in our priorities. And I think that's really what we're talking about. Um, Even just with understanding our value of self, I think that's something that I want to kind of tie this back to as we get a lot of further in the conversation. It's like we started off with this conversation about how people aren't valuing themselves in their own ideas when interacting with AI, when interacting with social media. And I think that's what we're looking at is like, how do people begin to be comfortable being creative with their self-expression in a way that's beneficial without this idea of, well, I got to make money. Like you can't even be creative enough because you're worried about trying to make something that's going to work for yourself. And so you're not even allowed to really just be there and be in that creative space and just flow and do the thing that you love to do because it's, well, I need to frame it this way. I need this kind of lighting. I need, you know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to even just be there and be present in creativity for some people with so much pressure of needing it to work or needing to get a certain amount of people to want to watch it for it to be considered something worth the watch.
So is it also the ease of the technology that inhibits people's ability to sit with themselves and value their creativity? And kind of what I mean by that is you could imagine that prior to AI, if you wanted to produce something, I've never produced anything other than like writing myself, right? And so I guess I could use that as an example. Like
It
prior
is
to
a great
AI,
example, brother.
if I wanted to write an essay, I mean, unless I'm going to take PDFs and copy and paste and just exactly plagiarize, right? Like I have to write the essay out myself and I have to edit it and then I have to have someone else come and look at it if I want to make something good, right? But with AI, and it's increasingly getting better, but obviously you can still tell when it's not written by a person, generally speaking. There's less restriction for me. Like if I wanted to put something out on my Substack where the only thing that I creatively came up with was the prompt, well, then I could do that. And if AI gets to the point to where it's writing better than people, then, well, why would I write if my focus is really to create content? So is that kind of what you're talking about, where like the technology kind of gives you an escape to not have to sit with yourself and do the work?
Yeah, and not even just do the work, but actually just understanding the value. Like, so for me, it's like, for instance, with the writing example, you had to write the paper, you had to check the paper, you had to validate that the paper was good. Nowadays, people will do something, let AI validate that it's good, and they don't even believe that it's good. So they don't really trust the work that they're putting out. And so it's not even authentic to who they are because they don't trust their own ideas. So they now have a system to validate anything without allowing them to validate themselves first. And I don't think that's a problem with AI. I just think it's a problem with, like I said, how people are interacting with the technology. It's the same thing with social media. People will put something out on social media that they really like, and if it doesn't get a lot of views, then they no longer like the thing anymore. But they did like the thing, and they could have continued to do the thing, but because they're not validated in doing that thing, they don't continue to pursue it.
Mm. See, I think this is tricky again. That gets back to how we are as social beings, because I think it's a tricky question. What is the goodness of a creation? You know, is
Mm-hmm.
the goodness of a creation self-determined? Like I create this thing, I deem it's good, therefore it's good? Or is it more so, well, I create this thing, yes, I think it's good, but also other people think it's good. Other people value it, and it's actually useful for other people. And so, to your point about the point of creativity being to expand the world, the goodness of creation seems to have that practical function under that lens where it's, I can't just say that it's good. Now, there's pathologies on both sides, right? Where if you really only if you close yourself off from feedback for your creation, it's really difficult to learn that way. You can kind of have this self-contained learning where you write an essay, for example, and you're like, well, I didn't like that paragraph, and you fix it, and there's that. But to connect to reality, it's like at some point you have to kind of distribute your judgment to other sources. Maybe. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, more so what I believe I'm talking about is that I don't believe people are giving themselves enough time to get good at a thing enough for people to acknowledge that it's good. Like the first time you ever make a website, you go make a website, you put it out there, and honestly, the website is shit because you didn't know what you were doing. But because you didn't keep doing it to figure out how to get it better because people didn't like your first website, you assume that people didn't like websites. No, people didn't like a website that they could go do themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to actually get good enough at the thing to be credible at it. And I believe some people are getting discouraged from doing the work part of it because they feel like, oh, well, AI did it this way and I couldn't be AI. And it's like, no, AI still isn't creative. You know what I'm saying? Like, social media, like, there's an aspect of it that that needs that human input. That's why the conversation for me is more about human value and human ideas, and how we're misvaluing and how AI is bringing up how we misvalue ourselves.
Well, yeah, that's a very fundamental question, man. The question of what is the worth and the value of humans, because like what would happen, for example, in the music industry if people were unable to differentiate between AI produced music and human produced music, and people with people started spending more of their attention and money on AI produced music. I think that would definitely highlight the question of of human values.
I mean, but I think we're coming to a point in society where we're watching that in live action. There is an unestimated amount of AI produced music, art, and technology in the world and in social media right now. And the numbers in the next few years will show if we really like creativity or if we just like shiny shit.
Because
Like,
you think
it'll come over time. Like, the people that succeed past this era will be either creatives or very good with technology. And the ones at the top will determine which one humanity likes more or which one was better marketed. And I think that's the question that we ask, is how do we determine that? It does it the one that wins and makes the most money more creative or better, or how does that, what determines that? And I think for me, when I really look at it, is as a creative, I just stay out of the entire rat race. Like, no, that has nothing to do with me. That's why I say I separate dance from success for me, because I believe that my passion is something that I should do regardless of if I make money doing it or not. If I needed money to do it, I'm not passionate about it, honestly. That's just my personal opinion. The thing that you do because you love doing it, you don't need to be paid to do. You would like to be paid to do it. But if you could make a living and then still go do the thing you love to do, you'll be fine. You wouldn't give a fuck if you got paid to do it or not. I didn't get paid to do most of the ciphers that I put out, but I want to have a space where I can go dance, and I want other people to have that space as well. So I spend the money to make sure that thing is available for people. I don't care if I make money or not doing it. I will do a dance event somewhere every couple months. That's going to be something that I dedicate to because I'm passionate about it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
is
it's
it seems in some sense that you're making a categorical distinction then between creative endeavors and passions or hobbies, because it, the narrative that came to my mind was one person who likes to play the violin and has developed enough skill to play proficiently some of the, I don't know, traditionally difficult canonical songs with the violin, and they do that in their spare time and that's fine. And then there's someone else who not only can do all of that but also make their own music, you know,
exactly.
and and then they are professionals, whatever that means. That's another term that gets murky, right? It's like,
Yeah.
how,
What do
what
you do?
exactly is the
Are
distinction?
you in an orchestra? Do you sell your music? Do you have like? But even think about this: like, somebody that's a professional violin player could just record their sounds and put them on iTunes, and people could buy it to listen to it. They could pay for streams from that, and you'd never know who it was. Some unknown person who uploads music on iTunes, and everybody that likes violins listens to their shit, but nobody knows who it is.
Right.
Like, it could be
And
a brand.
in
Like, there's
that
a thing
sense,
there for that.
exactly. And in that sense, still the measure of creativity or proficiency would seem to be s- social valuation, because even because iTunes is, it's one you know, most artists have never been heard by another person before.
Yep.
And then there's a small minority of artists that everyone listens to. And when I say artists, I mean we can make this kind of practical, right? Anybody who's put their music on a streaming platform,
And then
they're
a
an artist.
variety of streaming platforms, like some people that only put their music on SoundCloud, or only put their music on YouTube, or only put their music on this one website that their friend made that they tell people to go listen to their music at, and only like 10 people listen to it, but they have people that listen to their music. Like there's a range here. And I think the sensitivity of social media has made it this thing where it's almost like some people don't want to talk about it if they don't fit on that scale at the higher end of it. But it's like, no, like there's a range of creators nowadays. Some people make money doing it, some people don't. It's always been that way. Some artists are popular, some painters get paid a lot of money to be in museums and do the business side of it. It's all about how much you interact with that system. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't think the value of creativity comes from success of it. I think so. I'll put it this way. For me, I'm a person that believes that creatives should be creatives first, business people second. Because if you're not really, like, it just doesn't work for me. You should be a creative first. I do separate somebody who is a creative as a business person and someone who's a creative as a hobbyist. And I believe that some creatives that are hobbyists should be in the business space, but they lack the confidence to do it because they don't understand their market. And they want to compete with people that they're not going to have to compete with anyway.
So either way, maybe to close out, if you're someone that has a creative urge or outlet, practice every day, even if it's only a little bit, because that incremental habit building will yield fruit over time. And make sure you're doing what you love. I think that's something that, even though we kind of bounced around like what is creativity and what's the goodness of it, I think at minimum, if it's something that brings you joy, that's like a calling to you that you feel off if you go a certain time period without doing it. It's good for you to develop that part of yourself, even if it's not clear why you're doing that in the moment.
And I agree, and I put it this way: like, that's why I say what you're passionate about. Like you said, the thing that you're gonna do regardless, that thing that you do every day, that you want to do every day, that you think about doing every day, figure out how to make it something that you can, one, be creative with, two, implement into your life as much as possible, and then three, figure out how to monetize it in a way so you can have joy and get up and do the thing that you love to do every day, and have people see you doing the thing that you love to do every day. Because people invest in authenticity. We like to see other people happy. We like to see other people successful. And it's hard to in the economy that we're in, with creativity, with social media, with streamers. The biggest thing for people right now is to believe that if you love something, go do it right now. And don't let it consume you. Don't put the weight of the world on your shoulders so that you crush this little idea that you have. Let it grow. Give it the time, nurture it, and just see where it can go. And tap in with me if you need some direction, please. Theplayerscollective.com. I'm passionate about that. Like, there is a way for you to enjoy this life that we live, as long as you're willing to put in the work to get there and believe in yourself along the way.
Dope. It's a great place to end it.
All right, y'all. Be easy.